Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Licensing Board of the 9th of December. I'm Councillor Kathleen Baird, the convener of the board. With me this morning, we have Councillor Ros McCall, Councillor Willie Wilson, Councillor Rona Brock, Councillor Andrew Parrott, Councillor Tom Gray. And we have apologies from Councillor Duff, Councillor Reid and Councillor Pover. Can I ask members if anyone has a declaration of interest in any of the items of the agenda this morning?
No.
No. And apologies, I have missed out Councillor James. I'm dreadfully sorry, Councillor James. I should write all the names down. Thank you. Can we agree the minutes of the 4th of November 21 for approval and signature?
Agreed.
Thank you. We now move on to the first item, main item. It's premises licence application for Borland Farm. And I believe the General Manager has joined the meeting. So can I ask the Deputy Clerk to introduce the application, please?
Thank you, Convener. Yes, we have Mr. Bunscook, who I think is the General Manager at the applicants, present by video conferencing. You also have received two representations, which you have copies of. They are from Mr. Wynand Olivier and also Glenlyon and Lochte Community Council. The Community Council has also submitted a late representation, which you also have. In terms of participation, Mr. Olivier did intend to submit a written submission. In fact, he did. It's not been produced to you, as basically it's in the same terms as the original representation. There's only one slight change at the very beginning sentence where he changes his slight terminology. So we decided not to provide that written rep to you because essentially it is the same as the first representation. Now, the Community Council is also participating by a written representation. So what you have from the Community Council is the original representation, the late representation, and also, if you like, excuse the terminology, a written representation for participation. Now, as a preliminary issue, the board must decide whether to accept the late representation from the Community Council, though late, on the basis of A, failure is due to mistake, oversight, or other excusable cause, and B, the board considers it appropriate in all the circumstances to relieve the failure. The Community Council, in its last email, has suggested why it should be received late. Now, this application, moving on to the wider picture, members, this application is for a full premises licence. It should be noted the application is for off sales from a reception area. It's not for on sales, although it's understood the primary purpose of obtaining a premises licence is for the benefit of residents of the wider self-catering business. Groups staying are able to organise their own event within, for example, the barn, which is part of the same building as the reception. Now, from a technical point of view, Section 50 certificates in place for planning, building standards and food hygiene. Police Scotland have advised the applicant connected persons do not have any relevant offences. They've also confirmed no cases, complaints or representations within 1 year concerning antisocial behaviour on the premises or within a 50-metre area of the premises. Members have also given you the proposed location and layout plans for this premise for your information. Now, planning permission from October 2017 for change of use to form holiday staff accommodation is in place, and I've given you the planning permission location and proposed site plan simply because it's useful to understand how the barn reception area relates to the wider site and the nearest housing in the locality. Of some relevance to you, there are planning conditions, including planning condition 6. The existing barn shall not be used for any activities until such times that measures to control noise have been submitted and approved by the planning authority. And condition 7, a noise management plan has been submitted to the planning authority for approval. My understanding is that those have been done, but Mr. Bunscook could obviously confirm. Deliveries of alcohol are sought, albeit the deliveries are to be to the holiday accommodation within the wider site, and it's understood are not to be delivered to the wider public. Strictly speaking, your policy 5.22 on delivery of alcohol to and consumption by persons under 18 or drunk persons is therefore relevant, and I've given you a copy of that policy. It's a matter for the board whether it's necessary or expedient to impose a local conditional licence if granted to reflect that delivery policy. Now, the premises have operated off sales under occasional licences since around July 2021. Some members will recall that due to representation, 2 occasional licence applications for the premises under Mr. Bunchcook's name, in fact, were before the board meeting on the 23rd of September earlier this year. Both applications were granted. Now, nearly finished, members, but references made in the Community Council representation to an increase in traffic. Members will be familiar with me saying that matters relating to roads are generally not considered to fall within the alcohol licensing objectives. And lastly, when an objector does not appear or person making representation, it's a matter for the board what weight to give to that objection representation in the absence of being able to question the objector. So, convener, I've nothing more to add. We're on to the preliminary issue of whether to accept that late representation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Elliott. First of all, can I ask that the screen be changed, because the screen we're actually seeing says we're still in adjournment, and I don't want whether that should have been changed or not. So, okay, thank you very much. Mr. Brunscook, have you any comment to make on the late representation that's been presented before us this morning?
Excuse me. Yes, thank you very much. The late representation was made 4 days after the deadline, and actually the Community Council convened a meeting on the 11th of November, about 6 days after the incident took place. So, and at no point during the Community Council meeting was that point raised, which I took part in. So I could have addressed it there and then. So yeah, I don't see why it wasn't discussed at the time. So that's my objection against the late representation.
Okay, thank you very much. Board members, I personally would be quite happy to accept this representation, just so we can speed things up rather than so we know everything in front of us. So anyone else got any comment to make on the representation?
Not from me.
Yep.
Let's proceed, please.
So I'm taking that the members are quite happy that we just take this representation as any other representation in front of us. So, great. Bearing in mind that some of the issues on that letter are completely irrelevant because we do have nothing to do with fireworks, so that will not be taken into any account, because that's a licensing committee issue, not the licensing board, so that will not be considered. Okay, thank you very much.
Convener, Councillor James had his hand up there.
Sorry, Councillor James.
Yeah, it's okay, Convener. Sorry, thanks. It was only to say what you said for Mr. Bunskirk's, so that he can see transparency, basically. And the other thing, of course, if we didn't take this now, it could possibly be brought up at a later meeting. So we might as well deal with it while we're here. Yeah. Thank you.
Convener, did I just be clear for Mr. Bunskirk's purposes? That was only a decision to take the late representation into account. It's then up to the members how much weight and how the relevancy, etc. So we're now into the point of this, you making submissions on the whole application. So that was just decide whether to look at it. They've decided to look at it, and now we're on to the whole application.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. You're now able to make your representation to us. You present your case.
Okay, so my name's Dirk Bunskook. I'm the general manager here at Borland Loch Tay. I've got over 20 years experience in the licensing trade, predominantly in the UK, but also in Europe. We've applied for this license so that it can provide the sale of alcohol, as stated earlier, to primarily guests staying here at Borland Loch Tay, as well as opening up to residents from the local communities such as Fearnan. We've got a number of control measures in place, and I've listed them here. We've got a Challenge 25 policy. All members of the team are trained in safe service of alcohol. We've got the noise management policy in place. There's no sale to intoxicated individuals. We've got an active management of health and safety procedures here on site. We have a refusal book in place. We have a regular review of our noise management plan, A recent review was submitted to the AHO for that. We have a contact number available for local residents should there be any kind of issues with noise due to the consumption of alcohol. And we have regular communication with local residents. We have some living quite close to us on site. I participate in community council meetings, and I've had regular meetings even with the kind of subgroups of the local residents where I've been invited into their house to discuss any challenge that they've come across. We've also been able to trade on and off license since around about July of this year. Most of them have been granted with no issues, and as you stated earlier, there have been some representations made, and still the license was granted to us. Obviously, it's great to hear from Vinant, Olivier, about the positive representation made. Is this time for me to address the other representations as well?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So in terms of the community council representations made, so to point 1, which was relating to the track record of the management and behavior, I think we'd just like to point out we've been extremely busy following the reopening at the end of April, as many accommodation businesses and holiday businesses have experienced. And I think there have been issues with groups staying up after 11 and creating some noise issues. They have been dealt with there and then on site by the responsible person or the duty manager. We've got a log in place, which is part of our noise management policy, where we do log any issues that we encounter, whether they've been reported or not. Just so we can be clear on issues that have been dealt with there and then, and the successful dealing of them on that. Just in point 2, which was about some single-sex groups creating an unwelcome antisocial noise and behavior. Like I said earlier, we've had some issues with some of the groups here on site, but given the amount of guests that we can have on our site, it's a very, very small percentage of that. Some of the complaints made to us at the time were also made quite early on, well before the 11 o'clock curfew that we have in place. And in regards to point 3, the management of the site has been successful in the past. I think, again, I would like to point out that the levels of business are pretty much quadrupled since the last manager was here. So we are a lot more busier, and obviously having had 18 months of no trading with no noise to, obviously with no guests, I think that therefore it may have exacerbated the kind of issues experienced, perhaps. We are still a self-catering business, so this is in relation to number 4. And as a self-catering business, obviously guests can bring their own alcohol, and of which we have very, very little control over. By having an off license in place, at times guests might go out to buy more alcohol or seeking it to buy from us, and if we have the opportunity to then refuse the sale of alcohol, that will give us greater control into whether the consumption is more than what they should have. I know that the speed limits and the increase in traffic is probably not relevant to this, but we do have speed limits available on site. So any increased traffic would only grow if our accommodation business grows. So we have a set number of units that hasn't grown as such from within the planning permission. So from that point of view, that there won't be an increase in traffic to that point. There's some other concerns listed in that, so I'll make representation to them. They are, let me just double check the representation from there. The main concerns from the community council was the risk of increase in antisocial behavior, especially with the historically poor management, as they stated. We've always got a responsible person on site when it comes to stag and hen parties, and even during the week when we have more families and other residents. And this is actively being managed and is logged within the logbook that we have available as part of our noise management plan. This is shared with the Community Council, this plan, as well as the EHO of Perth and Cross Council. To address number 2, the increase of risk of accident due to excess alcohol in either Loch Tay or potentially a hot tub. I think the risk will decrease as we have greater control over the sale of alcohol to our residents. And like you said, we are still a self-catering business. People are informed of the risks with the hot tubs. We have a check-in form that they sign off. We have a disclaimer form that they sign off on as well. We take damage deposits, so if there is noise issues, people are made aware that they will lose their damage deposit of £500, which has been in place since we've started the business, really. And then point 4, the Community Council would welcome some control measures to be put in place in regards to this application. So the control measures we have are documented in our application, in our off-license application, as well as in our noise management plan. And this is being reviewed regularly. We have a responsible person on site at all times, so this person is very well equipped to deal with any issues that might come up. Yeah, that's my representation as such.
Okay, thank you very much. And now open it up to questions from members. First member who wishes to ask a question, Councillor McCall.
Thank you, convener. Yeah, good morning, Mr. Burns-Cook. Thank you very much indeed for that. And yeah, I understand exactly where you're coming from, and I appreciate the responses you've given regarding the issues that have been put forward. This has happened before in licensing, so bear with me. I like to get an idea of what you're hoping for your business when this, if we proceed with this off sale. So could you give us a little bit more indication on how you envisage the off sale supporting your business and how you think that will run, just so that we can have an idea on what you're wanting it for and how you anticipate it being used within your business model?
Okay, so we are looking to drive more sales within our business, and as such, that's why we want to use the off-license for. That's predominantly what it is. We're looking to grow the business as such as well, so we're currently employing a lot of local people, so we're creating new employment opportunities within the local area. Was your other part of the question about how we implement
well,
it?
it's more along the lines, I mean, for example, are you seeing people coming along going, right, well, we would normally bring our own alcohol, but we can buy it on site now, so we're coming along and we'll just pick something up? Or do you envisage people having a little bit of a party and a little bit of a time and then getting in touch with you at 10 o'clock at night to, how do you anticipate the off sales being utilised?
Okay, so it is a case of advertising the fact that we do sell alcohol on site, and the idea is that people bring a basic stock with them as they would normally do, but we offer different products that they might not be able to pick up in their local shop. So it's local beers, it's local whiskies. So it's not so much the volume, it's more the niche of it and having a differentiated product available for them.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Councillor Wilson.
Thanks, convener. Thanks for your presentation. I've asked you this before the last time around, but to refresh my memory, how far away in terms of meters is the nearest domestic residence to your establishment?
There's 5 cottages on site, one of which is a staff accommodation. So I would say closest to another accommodation, probably 15 meters.
15?
1.5, yeah.
And you referred, if I might just ask another quick question, convener, you referred to you've created local jobs. Could you tell us how many local people have jobs with you?
Sorry, just off the top of my head. 8.
Thank you.
Councillor Parrott.
Yes, thank you very much, convener. Good morning to you, Mr. Burns-Cook.
Morning.
The first thing I would ask is the support for your application from Mr. Olivier gives the impression to me that he thinks you're running a bar. And I'd be grateful if you could sort of confirm that you know that that's not the case, so to speak. And my second one arises from a comment. You say you have, as a self-catering business, you have very little control over the alcohol that guests bring. Do you actually mean by saying that you have no control over the alcohol that they bring? Because I'm not aware of any control measures you might have over the alcohol that guests can bring. Thank you.
Yeah, you're correct. We have no control over that matter. What guests bring, we don't inspect their luggage such when they arrive, so we have no control. You're absolutely correct in that. And we are not opening a bar. No, I think that would be the wish of Mr. Olivier, and who knows, in the future we might do. But at this moment in time, it is just purely for an off license.
Thank you. And if I may follow up on that, to further the comments you made to Councillor McCall, you are, if you like, providing a facility for the off-sales purchase of local alcohol products. So if you could give me, if you like, some idea of the products you sell and how you sell them. Is it bottles, cans, that sort of thing, if you would? Thanks.
Sure. Yeah, it's well, the main whiskey we supply is Aberfeldy whiskey, and that's supplied in bottles. We have miniature versions available as well. The other local products are, I guess, more wider local or Scottish, are Linda Lime gin and Harvest and Brewery Schiehallion beer. Okay.
And so you have, in naming those three, I'm supposing, although you haven't said it, that you have a reasonably limited range of products that you sell on site.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Many thanks to you.
Thank you. Can I ask you how many of the local residents actually frequent the shop and come and buy some alcohol?
At the moment, none, because we haven't advertised it in the wider area. So that's essentially why.
Thank you. Any other member got any questions to the applicant?
Not
Okay.
from me.
Anything else you'd like to add?
Not from my point of view, I think.
No. Thank you very much. I think you have answered all the points raised in the objections. Well, if there are no further questions, I would like to propose that we grant this application subject to mandatory conditions and a delivery condition included. Do I have a seconder?
Happy to second, Convener. Oh, well, all happy to second.
Councillor James. Anyone else? An amendment? Everybody quite?
No amendment.
Can I ask, so all members are in agreement that this application is granted?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Agreed. With the conditions on delivery, yes, absolutely, Convener.
Okay. Thank you. Can I ask the Deputy Clerk if there's anything else you'd like to add?
I think that's quite clear, Convener. Unanimously, you've granted the application subject to mandatory conditions, and local condition members will be familiar with the wording. I'll just read it out quickly. Written policies shall be in place for the premises and shall be implemented by the premises licence holder and all staff involved in the sale and consumption of alcohol, all to the continuing satisfaction of the board for the taking of orders and subsequent delivery of alcohol out with the premises, which means out with reception, so it covers the wider site. Obviously, you have a policy already, Mr. Bunchcook, but it's an ongoing policy, and if there's any need, you liaise with the licensing standards officer on that.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Bunchcook, thank you very much for coming along, and I wish you continued success with the business.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Councillor James, hand up.
No, it's all I was going to say was, Convener, just for clarity, for the community council who objected about the noise. The noise is actually covered by planning, not licensing, and I have every confidence that Mr. Bunchcook abides by that anyway. But it was only for clarity. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're free to go.
Okay. Thank you very much. Bye bye now.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I now ask for Mr. Patterson to be brought into the meeting, please? Good morning, Mr. Patterson, and I believe there's someone else. You've got someone else with you.
Yeah, that's correct. Craig Michelle, who's the managing director of Paragon, who's mentioned in the letter from the council.
Yeah. Okay, good morning to Craig Michelle as well. I'm Councillor Kathleen Baird, convener of the Licensing Board, and with me this morning was Councillor Ros McCall, Councillor Willie Wilson, Councillor Tom Gray, Councillor Rona Brock, Councillor Andrew Parrott, and Councillor Ian James, and with us is also the Deputy Clerk, Colin Elliott. So this is the premises licence application for the Stedding Inchcoonins. Can I ask the Deputy Clerk to introduce the application?
Thank you, convener. Of course, members will be aware you have Mr. Patterson, who I think is a director of the applicant company, present by video conferencing, and also Mr. Craig Michelle, who's I think managing director of Paragon Protection Systems, who are the main operators of that premise, if you want to put it that way. Now, members, an objection's been received, and you have a copy of that. It's from Errol Community Council. The Community Council do not wish to participate in today's hearing and have chosen to rest on their objection. Now, this application is for a full premises licence. Should be noted the applicants will be sharing the premises with another company, as I've said. The other activities taking place in the premises are not connected with alcohol, to my understanding. Section 50 certificates in place from planning, building standards and food hygiene will have had clearance from those three services. Police Scotland have advised applicant and connected persons do not have any relevant offences. Have also confirmed no cases, complaints, or representations within 1 year concerning antisocial behaviour on the premises or within a 50-metre radius of the premises. Excuse me. Now, members, planning permission was granted on the 5th of August 2020 for a change of use to storage and distribution, which in planning terms is called Class 6, and the erection of an ancillary office building for a temporary period. Relevant to you, some planning conditions include Condition 3, servicing of and deliveries to and from the premises shall be carried out between 0700 and 1900 Monday to Friday, 0800 and 1700 Saturday only, with no servicing or deliveries to and or from the premises permitted on Sundays. There is no reference to the number of vehicles at the premises being restricted. Development Management have not objected to this application. Members should be careful to only consider matters within the alcohol licensing regime and not to duplicate other regimes such as planning, as you'll be familiar with. The objection from the Community Council makes reference to traffic issues. However, such matters, as members know, are generally considered not to fall within the alcohol licensing objectives. Now, in the supplementary information document provided by the applicants, all policies will be in place except for dispersal of patrons and litter waste management. However, I would ask you to note there will be no access to the premises by the public. The supplementary information document also refers to a written policy relating to the prevention of sale or supply of alcohol to under 18s. That's in fact a delivery policy, and you'll be given a copy of that. Now, because of deliveries of alcohol being mentioned, your policy 5.2 on the delivery of alcohol to and consumption by persons under 18 or drunk persons is therefore relevant, and I've given you a copy of that policy. Matter for the board, whether it's necessary expedient to impose a local conditional licence if granted to reflect that policy. And lastly, if an objector does not appear, it's a matter for the board what weight to give to the objection in the absence of being able to question the objector. I've nothing more to add.
Thank you very much. Can I now ask the applicant to speak to the application, please?
Sorry, you want me to speak?
Yes, please. Yes.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, well, obviously I have the objection in front of me, and there's certain matters in the objection that are not that are actually inaccurate. I don't know whether you wanted me to go over the objections.
Please, yes.
Yeah, okay, fine. Okay. So just picking up on one or 2 points, the application has been submitted by a company called Tempo Group. This is on page 1 of the objection. registered in Newbridge, Edinburgh, which is quite correct. According to Companies House, they are an SME with an asset valued at under 500,000, which is also correct. If I can just point out that the company is actually owned by a charity. It's owned by an educational charity, actually. So it was just to give you a background to the business itself. The present occupier of the site is, as stated, Paragon Protection Systems. There is absolutely no connection between Paragon Protection Systems and Tempo Group legally. What I would say is that Craig Michel, who's the MD of Paragon Protection Systems, has offered us space within these premises, very kindly offered it free space for a temporary time to help the purpose of the charity until a more permanent solution has been found. Going on to page 2, they speak about the current premises license application. They are saying that using Internet Research, Tempo Group Limited does not appear to be a single independent business based in Scotland. This is actually untrue. It is only operating in Scotland. It's got 5 directors, all based in Scotland. We do have the franchise of a trading company called Campus & Co, which is worldwide, but there is no legal attachment to that either. So Tempo is an independent business operating with its own 5 directors. It also goes on to say it's not known how Tempo Group are connected to Paragon Protection Systems, and as I've gone over, there is no legal connection, and also neither of the businesses are Australian based. They are both based in Scotland, as is Paragon Protection Systems. You can agree with that, Craig, I'm sure, if you put your thumb up.
Sorry, folks. I've just been driving, but what you say is correct, Robert. Thank you.
Yeah, and the only thing I would say here is that Paragon are supporting the charity by giving the storage space. That is the only connection. I would say that we're both part of the Christian community, Craig and myself, who are supporting this charity. So that's how we. That's our only connection. It speaks about the traffic, which Councillor Elliott has said doesn't really come into this application, but we obviously respect what the planning application approval said on the movement of vehicles. We're not expecting a large number of vehicles. There may be 1 delivery vehicle in per week, and there may be 3 deliveries vehicles out at maximum a week. So it's not a big consideration. They also point up the additional security. The premises are alarmed, and they report to a monitoring centre, and there is no proposal for any extra lighting to be put into the premises at all. So their concern about the wildlife is understandable, but we don't expect that to be affected at all because there's no proposal to change what is already there. We've touched on the minimal deliveries, and if I can just say also the background of it is that the sales of alcohol are to a member community. It's not to the general public. So it's not as though we're expecting this business to escalate out of control. There are about 1,000 members of the community, our community in Scotland, as it is. So it's not as though we're going to be promoting sales of alcohol to the wider community, to the public rather, but only within our Christian community. The sales are not going to be huge. If we look at the storage involved, we're looking at about 10 pallets maximum. It's going to be a very small operation. And I guess the final thing I was going to say is that it probably is only a stopgap for us because we've already started looking at other options for the distribution of alcohol throughout Scotland. We are distributing at the moment to 5 locations within Scotland, and that will remain. But as I say, we're only looking. It's changed slightly since we put in the application, in as much as that we are now looking at other alternatives, but we do need a stopgap, probably of 12 months as a minimum, is what we're looking for. Just at the moment, just to give you an idea, we have got the person, Jeremy Burgess, who has got the alcohol license, the occasional license. He applies for occasional licenses approximately once a fortnight at the moment. It was just so that we can actually streamline the operation and have the premises license and be able to distribute from there. I'm not sure, Councillor Baird, whether that covers it sufficiently, but I trust that helps.
Yeah, thank you very much. I would just like I think you addressed Colin Elliott as Councillor Elliott. I know it's just a little slip, but he is not a councillor. He was kind of smiling. He's the deputy clerk. So
he's deputy clerk.
Thought that was promotion or
please accept my apologies, Mr.
No,
Elliott.
that's quite all right. I just thought just to keep him happy as well. Councillor Wilson, you have a question.
Thanks, Convener. Mr. Patterson, thanks for your submission. What's the range of alcohol that I've two quick questions? What's the range of alcohol that you're providing and selling?
Well, it would include spirits and beers and wines.
Okay, and what's the charitable purpose of the charity that you're representing? Yes,
the charitable purpose is essentially it's an educational charity. So in Scotland, just to give you a bit of background of our Christian community, we set up 2 private schools in Scotland, although they're operated under one administration. We have one based in Alloa, which there's attendance of about 150 children, and they go there every day from Perth, Kirkcaldy, Kilmarnock, as far away as Kilmarnock, and they converge on that private school every day. And we have got an excellent transport network for that as well. We've also got a satellite school in just outside Aberdeen at Balmedy, and they cater for about 60 children.
Thank you, Convener. Thank you, Mr. Patterson.
Thank you. Councillor Gray.
Thank you, Convener. You mentioned you had 1,000 members in the organisation. Is this individual members or is this groups of members?
No, that's individual members.
And yeah. Are they in groups? So if when you're out delivering, you're delivering to a group or to individuals in wherever they are?
It would principally be to individual houses. So if we take I say 1,000 members, if we take the number of houses, it would be delivering to. If you divide it by, I think it's approximately 3.5. So we're looking at 300 houses. Now it wouldn't be a delivery every week. As I say, it's at the moment we're only delivering once a fortnight, and we don't intend to actually change that pattern at the moment.
So deliveries to families rather than individual members.
Correct. Yeah. Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I don't see any other member wishing to ask any question. So,
Catherine, I've got my hand up.
Sorry, Councillor Parrott.
Thank you very much, Convener. Mr. Patterson, thank you for your explanation there, which has answered most of my questions, and Councillor Wilson's question has answered another. But just to be clear, if you like, your the nature of your business is that you're making supply of alcoholic products to the members of your community, and in a sense, the purpose of doing that is to generate funds for your community that supports the educational, charitable function of your community.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct, Councillor Parrott. If I can just explain how it works, the directors of the company and the volunteers who work in Tempo, it's all done voluntary. We are not employed by the company as such, so we are maximising the profits that we make from the sales. And any profit that we make goes into the charity. So it's to fund, if you like, the expenses of running the organisations that we do.
Okay, and if I may, most or all of the pupils, if I can use that word these days, at your schools are also members from your community or children of members of your community.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay, thank you. And one other more perhaps pertinent question is. On the site at Inchcoonans, is there a clear definition, divide, if you like, between your staff who will be volunteers, perhaps, who are handling the alcohol, receiving the alcohol onto the site and arranging the deliveries? Is there clear security and defined access to that alcohol between members of the Tempo group who are doing that work for you and, if you like, the staff of ZAP shelters at Paragon Systems? Can I have confirmation of that? Thank you.
That's a good question. I'll pass that one over to Craig if you don't mind.
Okay.
Craig?
Thank you, Councillor Parrott. That's a very good question. Just to backpedal a little bit, the board should be aware that our involvement is purely from a charitable point of view. We have simply made some space available within our facilities to try and support the charity on a temporary basis until they find somewhere more permanent. We are certainly not making anything out of this, and we're doing it out of the goodness of our heart, if you like. To answer your question directly, there will be no direct connection between our workforce and the Tempo team. What I would say is that some of my own sons who work for me in the business will also be helping to load and unload the lorries. It's a very small operation. We have very little in the way of warehousing and distribution activity within our own existing business. So we're really facilitating the temporary stopgap, as Mr. Patterson has mentioned, until they find somewhere more suitable. I hope that makes it clear.
Thank you. I can understand. So your sons, if you like, who might be otherwise, I don't know, working for Paragon Protection Systems, but if they are handling alcohol, they are acting on behalf as members of the Tempo group. But equally, if you like, other employees who are just employed by Paragon Protection Systems do not have access or linkage to the alcohol side of the business. Thank you.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Could I maybe also add as well that alcohol is only one part of our business, because we actually run some we'll call them shops, which service our community as well. So we have got shop locations, and the reason why we're going down this route is that we don't have premises license for the shops as such. I'm not saying that we're not working towards that. We probably are. It's probably one of the solutions that we're looking at. But in the meanwhile, we decided that the best way to promote the alcohol product, if you like, was through a website. So all orders will be taken online, and then there will be a distribution from a licensed premises. So it's, if you like, it's a central distribution point. So alcohol is part of the business, but it's not the only part of the business.
Okay, many thanks to you.
Thank you.
Councillor James.
Yeah, thanks, convener, and thanks, Mr. Patterson and Mr. Michelle. I noticed that there was objection from the Community Council. Can I ask either, because I should imagine Paragon have been there a while anyway as a business, if they're providing the storage. Has anybody from the local community actually spoken to you, or have you approached them to speak about this prior? It's just, you say there's quite a few, well, not untruths, but they've got the facts incorrect. I just wonder, this might well have solved the problem if they'd come and spoken to you.
I'll have to pass that to Mr. Michelle. He'll answer. He's on the site.
Thank you, Councillor James. That's a good question, and the honest answer is no. No one's approached us. We have very good relationships with our neighbours in Inchcoonans, the other businesses, and one or two residential neighbours nearby. But no, we could definitely have cleared this up if someone had popped in and had a chat. And they're more than welcome to if they want to in future. The kettle's always on.
Thanks.
I like that. Right, I don't see anyone else wishing to ask any questions. Mr. Patterson, is there anything else you feel you want to tell us, or Mr. Michelle, that we haven't quite said? I think you've given us quite a. We understand more about the business now than we did when we first started the meeting, which is always to our benefit.
Yeah, well, I don't have anything else to add at this stage, and I can think of. I do appreciate you taking the time to listen to us.
So thank you. I think we are now, if no more questions, ready to come to a decision, and I have heard no adverse comments from any of the members. So I would be happy to grant this application subject to mandatory conditions and the local condition regarding the delivery, which is 5.22. So do I have a seconder?
Happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Parrott. Anyone else, any different? No objections?
Agreed.
No, so
No,
we're
agreed,
No, I'd
convener.
agree.
all
Agreed.
agreed, so we're
Agreed.
happy to grant this application. Can I ask the Deputy Clerk, Colin Elliott, if there's anything else he wishes to add?
Nothing particular, Convener. I feel like I'm repeating myself from the last application because it's the same. It's grant subject to managed conditions and a local condition. I'll read it out briefly. Written policies in place for the premises, implemented by the premises licence holder and all staff involved in the sale and consumption of alcohol, all to the continuing satisfaction of the board for the taking of orders and subsequent delivery of alcohol out with the premises. Mr. Patterson, we appreciate you've got a policy in place already. This is an evolving policy. If there's any need to discuss matters, you discuss it with a licensed standards officer.
Okay. Thank you very much. So you're both free to go. So thank you very much for coming along to the board this morning and presenting your application. So
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks for your time.
thank you, Councillor Baird and everybody else. Much appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
Good luck.
Okay, thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye
Bye.
now.
Members, that brings the end to the meeting.
Thank you very much.